everybody. My name's Nancy Cooper, and I'm from the Chippewas of Rama First Nation. I'm the First Nation consultant here at the Ontario Library Service, along with my colleague Dina Nivianaklik. I also get to coordinate the First Nation Communities Read Book Award, which is a national Indigenous book award. We are in our 20th year, so we're celebrating an anniversary year of celebrating the very best in Indigenous literature. We have two categories, the children's category and the young adult category. Each year publishers from all over Canada nominate their books. We have a big long list of 69 titles this year, which were then shortlisted to 5 titles in each of the categories. And I am joined today by 2 of our jury members, one from the children's category and one from the adult category. I'm going to hand it over to them so they can introduce themselves, and then we're going to have a discussion about what it was like being on the jury and how important awards like this are in community, as well as the importance of Indigenous literature in the libraries. I'll hand it over now.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Gopagog. I'm the librarian and CEO of Beausoleil First Nation Public Library. I have been in the library service since 2005. I took a break, and in 2019 I came back. And right away, the first thing that I wanted to start up again was the First Nation community reads in the community, because it's important for the libraries, especially First Nation libraries, to be able to access First Nation books. And the only way sometimes for us to get that is through the First Nation community reads. So I'm going to leave it at that for right now, because there's more to go with that. Peter?
Peter Peters. I was working at the Beausoleil First Nation Public Library as an assistant librarian for the last year. Yeah, cataloging, working at the library, doing emails, flyers, phone calls,
and
tons of other stuff, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, and then I wrote them into being a juror for the first time.
Oh, yeah, the juror, that's what
That's right, and you were on the children's jury, Peter.
Yes, jury. You read 4 or 5 books.
Yeah, each of the short lists is 5, and the jury gets sent out a copy of each of the books, and they have some time to read them and then come up with their top choice, and then come into the jury call to deliberate where their top choice ends up. So actually, I want to get Kathleen to tell a quick story, and then we'll get into the jury process. Last year, Kathleen, you came in with a book and you said, this has to be the winner. And another librarian came in with a book and said, this has to be the winner. And so for the very first time in the program's history, we had a tie. But for me, it really speaks to the importance of Indigenous voices in community. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about how Little Bear and foster care connected with you.
Well, in our community, there are a lot of children that are not with their biological parents. And the book, for me, it meant that it's something that can be placed in the foster home or given to a child when this happens to them, right? So that they can understand that, you know, where they're at right now isn't going to be permanent, you know, that there's hope. And I think that's what this book gives to them, you know, that these parents are trying to, you know, correct their lives, and they're trying to make better homes for their children. And sometimes it takes a while. It doesn't happen overnight, right? And that book was so profound to me that I went in there with, this book has to win. Unfortunately, the other librarian is as strong-willed as I am. So we went back and forth. And normally I would ease off. You know, if someone felt in the group that, or one juror felt that their book that they had chosen should be the winner, I would usually back off and say, go ahead. But this was the year that it was not going to happen. I was bound and determined that this book had to be published. Not published, but had to be put out there and had to be a winner so that people would see it and people would read it. And that it would be brought into First Nation communities through the library system, right? And it could be enjoyed by these young children that have to face their life in foster care. And I can attest to that because I was in foster care when I was a child. So I remember it being a very hard place to be. And it would have been nice to have a book like that. And I knew that my mother was working hard to get me back. But when you're a single woman, it's hard for the Children's Aid to give the children back. And at that time period in my life and in her life, it was even harder. Like it was almost 2 years before I got to live with my mom again. And in that whole time, I was in foster care. So this book was really, really important to me. And I wanted the other children to be able to, you know, find some comfort in the fact that they've been taken from their parents and they're in this strange place that they don't understand, and they don't understand what happened, that time will help, time will heal, and their parents will heal, and their parents will get them back. It just takes time. So I was adamant, but Nancy came up with an absolutely brilliant solution. Let's have a tie. And I was ecstatic. And the other librarian was ecstatic, and I was really, really proud of myself to stand my ground that this book was important enough to be recognized.
Well, Little Bear in Foster Care by S.P. Joseph Lyons is based on his experience growing up as part of the 60s Scoop. And right there, everything that you've said was the very reason he wrote that book. The Thai book, We Dream Medicine Dreams by Lisa Bovan, is about death and dying and the teachings that come with that. So they were both really amazing books, and they deserved that tie for sure. So it was wonderful to see and experience the passion that you both brought to the discussion. And I was not going to say no to two older Anishinaabe women. So that's why I had that idea for the tie. So we know you've answered a little bit about what we look for, or what the jury looks for in terms of what makes a winning book. It's that personal connection. It's that how can I relate to this? Peter, what were some of the things that you thought of when you were going through each of the children's books? Because your perspective was a little bit different because you're new to it.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I read the books front to back. Well, I read them a couple times each. First time was just blind read through. Then the second time, I actually took some notes when I was breaking down. It's like, oh, no, this, and this, no. Picked up on some tropes and such, and like, oh, okay, this is how this is pieced together this way. Like in the one book, you can see progression through the images, and like, and then another one, you know, the color goes through the whole thing. Little things like that I was just picking up on. And I don't know if it was intentional or not. I didn't really know what I was supposed to be looking for when picking the book. I just like, okay, well, just go through and see which one I like the best. I worked in media a bit, so I know a bit of the references and stuff like that, and composition, harmony, setting up your page. Maybe not in like the terms of the layouts of the publishers and stuff like that, but you know, just in general art. I was trying not to be biased because I'm native to pick the best native book. I actually wanted to like look at it and critique it and to see what elements of the book actually like fitted and resonated to me, and then I could use what I knew to actually like understand what was going on. Because I believe the book we picked as the winner, you can really see the artwork in it, and there's a lot of movement in it. And you can see they draw that in you know, their poses and the way it's set up, the angles and the shots. Like it all it feels like, a whole story. It's the way the angles are, you know, I'd say camera because I work with cameras, but I just the angles in general is what I'm saying is the way they're set up. There's a theme to the book and you can notice it through the artwork.
Good point.
That was really appreciated by the jury because none of the other members were looking at the books the way you did. And I think that really, really helped with the discussion. Because you did point out things that nobody had considered or seen. So we'd flip to the pages and go, oh, yeah, you're right. It does look like that with that bubble there or that kind of thing. So think we will have to get some media experts as jurors down the road too, because it was really, really helpful to have that insight and your fresh perspective. So thank you very much for that. Kathleen, you've served on both kinds of juries, the children and the young adult jury. And in the past, the jurors have had to read all of the long listed titles. So last year, I think you had to read 25 titles for the children's category, and the adult jury had to read, oh, what was it, 50 titles. And anything that is by an Indigenous author can be nominated. So it can be anything from a graphic novel all the way to a university textbook and everything in between. So the jury really has had their work cut out for them in the past. This year we rejigged the program a little bit and just sent the short list out for the jury. What were some of the things that you considered? I know as a longtime librarian, you have a very maybe a different perspective and viewpoint.
I look when I'm a juror, I'm looking for a book that gives me some kind of joy, and that actually could be a textbook. So it's got to be well written. It's got to be has something substantial about it, right? And it has to want me to read it. I mean, I've read a lot of books in my life, and if I can't get past the first 3-4 chapters, then the book's no good. That's my opinion, though, and it's nothing about First Nation books at all. But I really think, as a juror, that we want to have books too that go on the shelf, the winners, to be strictly novels with a background of our history and our suffering, but they don't have to be factual. They don't have to be, this is what happened to me. It can be a story. And I think in the overall scheme of things, we're going to get a lot more readers if they can take that pain, that suffering, that heartache, and turn it into a story that has a good ending. And I believe that is the book that I'm looking for. So if there's any authors out there, you need to start writing a book like that. And I'm pretty sure you'd be number one. So I'm just adding that in there for you. But anyways, but it is hard and to be a juror, especially when you have 50 books. And you do have to take notes, like Peter had to learn that on his own. You need to take notes because you're at book 1. By the time you're down to book 40, you're like, oh my God, what was book 1 about? And you're reading them quickly. It's not like we have a year or a year and a half. We're pushing these through like literally every breath we take, we're reading a book. And it can be, it can get overwhelming, but we're dedicated to our jobs. We're dedicated to increasing the Aboriginal collection, which is why I continue to do this every year, because with the little budget that we have, it allows me to give to the community, to the patrons of the library, a new collection every year, if I can, of Aboriginal books. And that is the end goal. So I sacrifice my time to make sure that these books get into our library every year. And I wouldn't have it any other way. And you could give me 100 books to read and I would read them. I would probably not sleep, but I would read them.
It's true, it is a lot of reading. I've sat on a few juries and you're right, like by the time you're at book 40, oh dear, what was that number 7 about again? I better look back in my notes.
Yeah.
So making sure that there's a good collection of Indigenous work in your library is really, really important, and one that we hear again and again from First Nation librarians all over the province, but also from libraries that aren't Indigenous specific. And we find that there is a really large growth in that need for Indigenous voices. And I think for the first couple months of this past year, we had over 41,000 hits on the First Nation Communities Read website. So that really speaks to the importance and the popularity of the program. And when you were talking about those stories that you love to read, I just wanted to highlight that we had Tilly and the Crazy Eights was a winner a few years ago,
Yeah.
which is an amazing, you know, it blends that the laughter and the pain together in a really good road trip story.
Oh yeah, and it was such a good book that when I look back on that book, I thought, oh my God, that's my mother, you know, or oh my God, that's my auntie. You know what I mean? Like you could definitely relate to the book, and that's what I'm talking about. You know, let's bring the fun back into it, right? You know, like there's a way to do it, and that was definitely an author that was well deserving, and that book was incredible. And it took the heartache and the pain, and it still stated there's heartache and there's pain, but this is how we as Nish get through this heartache and pain. We go on a road trip and have some fun. You know what I mean? Like easy peasy.
Yeah, that laughter is really important. Another book that is able to meld those two things together really well and was a winner a couple of years ago was Drew Hayden Taylor's Chasing Painted Horses. He has a way to make people laugh, but also to feel later on, whoa, that was heavy.
Yeah.
That was an important thing to read. Other winners we've had are Seven Fallen Feathers by Tanya Talega. Really important book for everyone to read about the reality of people living in communities throughout Canada, specifically Thunder Bay. So, you know, having this award really helps to bring to the forefront the great work that's out there, but also many of the issues that are being dealt with or continues to be dealt with in community. When this video airs, we will have announced the winning titles, and I just want to congratulate the two authors of the selected titles, specifically the children's category, because Peter, you're here. It was Phoenix Gets Greater by Marty Wilson Trudeau, and it's about a child who is two-spirit and comes to live just the life that they have to live. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you thought about the book?
Yeah, it was good book. Talking to the other jurors, you know, really felt like it was a good message for the kids. The book itself, though, I found interesting. Yeah, just the artwork was cool because to be when I was looking at it and going through it, like I said, the characters kind of looked a little anime-ish. The shots kind of looked like a little like I don't know, a manga panel or a comic panel or maybe something of the sort. Going through it, it felt like a storyboard to like a short film or something like that. That's the way it kind of felt complete to me. So I like the way it was set up, and then it used a lot of it used paint to express himself, but it also used a dark tone of it to to kind of convey what he was going through. You see through the picture too, like the tone kind of the pink kind of stays the way it doesn't get brighter, it doesn't get any darker, it just kind of stays dark as he's going through it. And the story progresses, and it's like the book is like a little dark. It's trying to convey that feeling.
See, the topic is really important. The realities of two-spirit children. But you
Yeah,
were
and
looking,
it's from his perspective too, so that's why it's so dark, because it's like he's dark in his room, and he's like, you know, he's I guess depressed or in the dark lit rooms,
Mhm.
very gray shots. And mind you, at the end, I think the last 2 pages, there is a lot of color in them too, so I think it does brighten up right at the end though.
Yeah, well, speaking of as a two-spirit person, that closet can be pretty dark, and it's pretty bright when you come out and your family accepts you and for just exactly who you are. So I loved how that story was told, in that way. Yeah, definitely. Um, and Kathleen, you were on the adult jury this year, and the winning title is My Indian Summer by Joseph Kakwino-Kanasum. Do you want to speak a little bit about what you thought about the story?
Good storyline. I'm really all about the storyline. Yeah, there's geez, I have 5 books in my head right now, so it's going to be difficult to remember everything, but in general, it's just the words, they speak to you. You know, when the author is writing, and I'm really in tune to this when I read a book. I want the author to speak to me. I want to get lost in the book. And that's what happened when I read that book. I got lost in the book. I felt what these families were feeling, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed living through that. And I think when you think about reading, you want it to take you to a place that you've never been before. And if a book can take you to a place you've never been before, it's a good book. And it's a good time that you spend with that book, right? And it's a book that you'll recommend to other readers. So I know I've already been boasting about it. Not the name of the book, because I know that it hasn't been released, but I said, I have a book for you to read, but you can't know yet, right? So you have to wait. So I have a couple of patrons that are just eagerly awaiting for First Nation Community Reads Week at First Nation Public Library Week for the book to be announced publicly. And they've got dibs on signing it out, so they're eager.
Well, that's
And
wonderful.
good that we're in the jury, because I actually have a copy of the book.
Yes.
So that's perfect, right?
Yeah.
You know, if I wasn't on the jury, the possibility of me getting a copy of the book or having it are a lot slimmer. I know that sometimes OLS will ship us copies of the winners, but that doesn't always happen because of budgets and stuff like that, right? So it's excellent that if you're a juror, then you're going to have a copy of the winning book for sure, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
One of the things that we have changed in the First Nation Communities Read Award program is that each First Nation public library will receive a library set of 5 copies of each of the selected titles and 1 copy each of the shortlisted titles. So all of the First Nation public libraries will be receiving those soon, which is really, really great. The other thing I wanted to just mention was Joseph, the author, is going to be the writer in residence for the Vancouver Public Library. So he's a hit with the librarians all over the country. That's pretty cool. When I talked to the publisher, she let it slip, and I thought that was pretty amazing. Well, I want to thank you both for taking the time today for this little talk. The community as a whole really appreciates the work that First Nation public libraries and librarians do to highlight and celebrate literature in this way. The First Nation Communities Read program develops a poster that's sent all over Canada and to every municipal library in the province as well. So they can see the covers of all of the books. I mentioned the large number of hits we've had to FNCR.ca. So it is an important program, not only for us in community, but for everybody. And we really appreciate the support that we receive from goodminds.com, our official wholesaler. Shout out to Achilles at Good Minds. He is always ready, willing, and able to help. And don't forget, a portion of every sale goes to the SILT Fund, which is supporting Indigenous libraries today. So, you know, the money goes all over the place to make sure that our communities have great books to read and great librarians to borrow them from. Each of the authors receives Indigenous Literature Award, sponsored by our partners, Periodical Marketers of Canada. And each of the selected authors receive a $5,000 check along with that award. The Periodical Marketers of Canada have been partners with us for 10 years now, and are looking forward to continuing that partnership with us. And it's a really, really wonderful way to celebrate the authors, and because writers they're not in it for the money, that's for sure. So the monetary prize really goes a long way for them. And I just love working with the Periodical Marketers of Canada, their insights and their support, especially through their public relations company, have really helped the whole country find out about this program, not just people in the library field. I'll wrap it up. Just want to find out if there was anything else you wanted to add.
Yeah, I think I would like to say that if you are, in fact, you know, a writer or dreaming to be a writer, or you're a young person and you enjoy writing, think about writing a book. Think about writing about your grandfather or your grandmother, or stories that they've told you, because there are stories out there still that need to be written and need to be recorded. And there's a lot of you out there that can write very, very good, and you need to just take a chance and get yourself published, because we love to read your books, for sure.
Thank you much, Kathleen. Peter, did you have any final parting words?
Thanks for letting me on the jury. Had a good time. The deliberations were fun too. Thanks for working with everyone. Thank you.
Oh, miigwech. Okay, well, thanks everybody. I'm going to sign off now.